Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this fantastic week all about construction and modern construction and innovation in construction. I'm delighted to introduce Rory, who's going to be joining us from the Wates Group and share everything about his career journey and his business. And he's a strategy and innovation manager for the Wates Group. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So lovely to see you all. Good afternoon. As we said, my name is Rory Brown. I'm a manager in the Wates Group strategy team with a big focus on innovation and the future of construction in our industry. So I'll go into a little bit more detail around who Wates are, what we do, and some context around how we're looking to be more innovative as an organisation within the construction sector more broadly as well. So I'll start by talking a little bit around myself first, my career pathway, how I've moved from education through to the role that I'm in today, and then we'll move into a little bit more detail on the construction side. So don't worry too much about all the photos that are in here, but focus more on the kind of map in the top left corner of the screen. I went to a school called Emmanuel in Clapham, did my GCSEs there. I think it's fairly honest for me to say I didn't really know what I wanted to do when I was getting older, what I wanted to do as my professional career. When I was young, and I still am quite a sporty individual, I always thought that sport would always play some role within my life professionally. That sadly didn't materialize. So I began kind of focusing on core subjects that really piqued my interest more so than others, but kind of still with a particular generalist mindset rather than having a really niche focus on anything too specific back then. So I guess the kind of key takeaway for you from all of that is don't worry at this moment in time if you don't have a particular specialism or niche area that you kind of know that you've got your heart set on going forward. It can be very very kind of convoluted or not straightforward in terms of the trajectory of how you end up where you may potentially end up in the future is my big takeaway from that. So anyway, I went to Emmanuel School. Some of the big topics that I thought were really important to me, hence why I pursued them further, were things around business studies, so keeping my education really general and broad, but a better understanding of how businesses operate I thought was really important for me. As I said, very sporty, so PE took up a large chunk of my academic life as well, and then some core skills within geography and maths as well that I thought would be useful and translatable into any potential future career, but still very broad. That moved forward into university. So I was very fortunate to have gone to University of Sussex. I studied a degree in business and management. Again, you can probably still tell I had no idea where I wanted to be going forward. So I kept quite a generalist degree that focused on lots of different modules within business. So things like marketing, things like finance, things like operations, things like people, being some of the real core modules within that, but all stuff that can be applied and translatable elsewhere throughout any industry that you might potentially end up in the future. So stayed very broad. Came out of university about 7 or 8 years ago or so, stumbled into my first career, which was all around advertising. Failed my probation period, so I was in that for a few months. It wasn't the right thing for me. I couldn't get to grips with the content. It wasn't the right environment for me, so very quickly made a switch out of that. And a recruiter contacted me, got hold of me, introduced me to a very small consultancy firm called Chapman Consulting, which was a local business close to where I lived in South London. And this is kind of where the beginning of my journey within the built environment really began. So they're a very small sales and marketing agency working with demolition contractors, architects, contractors, anyone really working within the built environment space to support them with outsourced sales and marketing support. From there, I actually jumped onto a graduate program, so I kind of moved backwards a little step, but for me that felt like the right progression path because it was a larger organization and I could see that there was plenty of development opportunity within that organization. So I joined a government organization called Homes England, which is responsible for building houses, working closely with private house builders to get planning consent, build homes, or dispose of land for house builders to buy and build houses on. So I was on a 2-year graduate program at Homes England. Really, really beneficial, and I strongly advise having a look at Homes England at some point once you're off this call to understand what careers are available in that organisation, because a lot of people in our industry respect Homes England very highly, and there's a lot to be said around working in government as well, in terms of some of the softer benefits it can give you in terms of leadership qualifications, communication skills, plenty of opportunity by working in a government backed organisation as well. So did that for a couple of years, got offered a permanent role within Homes England. However, it was locking me into a contract that I wasn't necessarily happy with. And an opportunity arose with Wates, who are a company that I knew pretty well through the work that I'd been doing with Homes England, to join them in their strategy function. So about 4 years ago or so now, I joined the Wates group, and I've been sat in their strategy team ever since. And for the last kind of year and a half or 2 years or so, I've been responsible for setting up almost like an innovation function, or a group of people focused on innovation sat within the Wates business, who are responsible for essentially finding new innovative ways of working, innovative products in the marketplace, going out and speaking to prospective partners to collaborate on research projects. So I've got a really wide, broad and varied role, but all underneath this large umbrella of innovation more broadly. So I guess the kind of crux of it is, or what I'm trying to explain to you at the moment is, it's not a natural progression path where you go, oh, right, from school, I know exactly what I want to be doing going forward. I'm going to be working in strategy. I'm going to be working in consultancy. I'm going to be working in construction. If you don't know what you're doing at this stage in time, that's absolutely fine. But hopefully by me giving you some evidence of some interesting organisations, particularly Wates and particularly Homes England, two really reputable organisations within the construction sector. So if you do know a little bit more clearly at this moment in time the kind of trajectory or direction of travel you want to head into, whether that's, you want to be a surveyor or a cost consultant, or you want to work in the construction industry in some way, then Wates and Homes England are definitely two very reputable organisations that I would strongly advise going and having a look at after this conversation today. So that's enough about me and my career pathway. What I really wanted to do was use this opportunity to talk to you a little bit more around Wates, who we are, what we do, and then a little bit more about how we're approaching the future of construction with innovation in mind at the heart of that. So before I go into that, a little bit around Wates, who we are and what we do. So for those of you that don't know Wates, we are a tier one main contracting business. So in the UK construction sector, there's only really 7 or 8 main contractors in the UK market. So these are organisations with extremely high turnover, operating solely in the UK. We've actually got, well, if you could picture it with the image on the top right of your screen in front of you, Wates is almost like an umbrella. It's a group of companies, and underneath that group, we've got 5 distinctive divisions that all operate in slightly different ways, and they all serve a slightly different purpose, but they then report up into the Wates group, which is where I sit. So on the left-hand side of the image on the top right, you've got Wates Land and Development. So our developments business is responsible for going out into the market, looking for land acquisition opportunities, so going and buying land off landowners. It could be a farmer, it could be just an existing occupant of the land that might be used for commercial or another reason, but taking that land, getting planning consent on it for a specific use case. Predominantly it's for house building, but actually they could be getting planning consent for another reason. It could be to build a data center, it could be to build new offices, but ultimately getting that planning consent and then disposing of the land is their operating model. So that's the land and developments business. We've got a residential business, not to be confused with the developments business. So the residential business is actually a house builder of our own. So we actually do also build our own houses around London, the surrounding regions around London, and equally we do a little bit of work building houses out in Wales as well. We've got around 2,500 homes built this calendar year, which is really not calendar year, sorry, financial year, which is really positive. And we're growing year on year in terms of the number of homes we're building. So we're building mainly homes for local authorities, housing associations. So mainly public sector homes that are being built, but a few open market private homes being built as well by our residential division. Our third division, which is Wates Construction, is probably the one we're most well known for. Does essentially what it says on the tin. We're building schools, hospitals, prisons, right the way across the country. Now we are fast approaching, I think, over 1.5 billion turnover within our construction division, and it's employing several thousand people to date now. So it's a very fast growing business, and it's the one that we're most well known for. And again, a lot of our work that we're delivering for our clients and our customers are predominantly in the public sector. So building prisons for the Ministry of Justice, building barracks for the Ministry of Defence, building schools for the Department of Education. So lots of public sector work happening in our construction division. Our fourth division is WPS, which stands for Wates Property Services. This is a planned and reactive maintenance business. So this is around going into social homes mainly, and doing maintenance works, whether that's replacing a boiler, installing whatever needs installing. It might be a PV panel on a roof. It might be replacing a boiler with an air source heat pump or something like that. But it's essentially doing planned and reactive maintenance within the social housing sector. And then fifth and finally, the last business unit that we've got underneath the Wates Group is called SES. So this stands for Shepherd Engineering Services, and this is a business that the Wates Group bought about 15 years ago or so now, and that is in essentially an engineering business. So it's using factories off-site that are owned by us to build component engineering parts. That might be heating and ventilation equipment. It might be a riser or a bit of pipe work. And essentially what they're doing is then taking all of those component parts, putting them on the back of a lorry out of the factory, and delivering them to a project site to basically just plug it together and stitch it all together from a mechanical and electrical point of view. So they are our fifth and final business unit. But sometimes because they are, and again, put in the comments if this doesn't make any sense to you, but they are a subcontractor rather than a main contractor. So Wates will be a main contractor, and sometimes we will subcontract an element of the work to a company like SES, or SES, because they're a subcontractor, may work for a different main contractor that isn't Wates. So they're slightly unique in their offering compared to the other four divisions that we've got in our group. But please do comment or ask me any questions afterwards if any of that doesn't make any sense. I appreciate I'm moving at quite a fast pace, but I want to make sure that I cover everything in the space of this meeting. Who are we? We're a 129-year-old family business now. We've been going since before 1900. You can see the third image on the top left is the fourth generation of the family who are sitting on the board of the Wates Group now. We're actually now got fifth generation family members that sit inside our business, working their way up to the top. There's a fifth generation family member that sits in my team working for me in the innovation space. So it's very rare and very unusual to still have a family business within the construction sector. And equally, to be going for such a long time is very unusual in this sector as well. It's a lot of challenges and a lot of headwinds that we have to navigate. And there's quite a lot of noise at the moment and challenges around big competitors going into administration and challenges there. So I think all I'm trying to get at here is it's very, very rare, and it's a very big tick that we've been going for such a long time and that we're profitable as well, which is my next point. If you look at the image on the bottom left of your screen, there's a couple of headline statistics around the Wates group. So split by the 5 divisions, you can see if you join all the turnover numbers together, we're at about 2.5 billion, fast approaching £3 billion of turnover across those 5 divisions, with construction being the largest one. And then in the bottom left corner, you can see a figure saying £31.4 million of pre-tax profit as a result of all of that turnover that we've got. So we're at about 2% profit margin currently, 2-3% profit margin currently. And as part of my role and my remit is very much around what work can we do within innovation to make sure that we move from the traditional 2 and 3% profit margin into something more impactful. So how do we get from 2 to 3 to 5 to 6 to 7% profit margin? And we think by adopting new innovative practices, finding new products and solutions in the marketplace, we can help turn that 2 or 3% into 6, 7, 8% if we're doing a very good job. But that can be challenging. I move on. It's a little bit around the external context and why innovation is so important. So I've just mentioned that challenge around how do we move our profit margin from something that's pretty low to something that's a bit more impactful. And these are some of the headwinds or some of the challenges within the market that help give the evidence as to why it's so hard to improve our margin and why it's important that we have a team that's set up to do something about that. So the top left statistic, you'll see some question marks, but I deliberately left that blank. And I'll speak over it, but I want to give you 10-15 seconds to have a think about where you think UK construction comes out of all the 15 sectors that operate in the UK market, where construction sits within that. Give you a couple of seconds to have a think.
If you want to add any to the chat, please do.
Yeah, please do. Please do.
If you were to think of a table with all the different sectors, where do you think, if we're in the top 10, or what that might look like?
Give you a couple of seconds to do that, and then I'll come back to it and I'll go over the other statistics. So the one below it saying only 1% of UK construction firms have deployed AI at scale. So that's good and bad. It's good in a way because it presents a massive opportunity, a massive untapped opportunity for us as a sector to find different ways of deploying AI. So we've only started really scratching the surface of what could be done going forwards to use AI to a greater extent. So at the moment we are using AI, and I say we as in Wates are also using AI, but only to a limited extent, and I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in the slides coming up. But what it does mean is there's so much more potential for us to be using AI in a transformative way within the sector and for Wates as a business as well. The next
There's a few come in there, Rory.
Okay.
I don't know if you want to have a look.
I can't see it because I've only got
No,
one
let me
screen
shout
up.
them out to you.
Yeah, go for it.
So thanks, Lee. We think first. We've got they're all quite different actually. So we've got first and second, probably the top votes. Number 3 and number 7. I want a number 4. So they're all in the top 10.
Interesting. Well, you'll be delighted or sad to hear that you are all incorrect. It is actually 14th out of 15th. And I deliberately wanted to include that as a question mark and get your thoughts on that, because I think sometimes the perception of the construction sector is it's very up to date. Manufacturing processes are very modern and digitized, when actually we are one of the worst in the entire UK market in terms of the sectors for adoption of innovative practices. So we're actually 14th, and we're only beaten by one by agriculture, who's slightly worse than us. But what it does mean, and joins up with the statistic that I've mentioned below as well, is that there's a massive opportunity for us to do some more innovative work. We just need to find the right opportunities to embed that within our business. So thank you for answering those questions, and hopefully you can see that the statistic's quite alarming, that there's a lot that can potentially be done. So the next statistic speaks around the Future Home Standard, which is an essentially a set of rules or guidelines, legislation set by the UK government around how much carbon is allowed on projects. And in this instance, I'm talking around new homes here. But the point I'm trying to make out of that is the rules are getting far tighter from government on the amount of carbon that can be used in the construction process, and equally in the operation of any building as well, including homes. So we've got to constantly be on the lookout for solutions and products and companies that can help us in the very tight rules and regulations that the government are setting us as well. The fourth, which is the bottom statistic in the middle of the screen, speaks around how many projects are exceeding their budget. So it's a very challenging market where, if you think the length or duration of a construction project, trying to accurately forecast how much you're going to spend on a project can be really, really challenging. You can have a good idea in your mind of what you think the budget of a project is going to be up front, and then there's millions or tons and tons of unforeseen events, circumstances, some of which can't be controlled, but many of which can be controlled. That we think there's a big opportunity to find those key problem areas that exist currently to help us get closer to budget certainty. So actually costing a project accurately from the outset through to final delivery. How close can we stay to that initial figure that we mentioned at the very start of a project? Top right figure, talking around AI again. So I mentioned that only 1% of firms have deployed it at scale, but 42% are using it for personal use. So it's great that people are using it for personal use. And when I say personal use, I mean things like helping you write an email or something like that, which isn't particularly specific to the construction sector. So what I'm really trying to get at here is it's great people are using it already, but there's a lot more that can be done to use it, particularly within our sector. So thinking around on project sites, on construction sites, how can we use AI to be more impactful and effective beyond just basic personal use? And then the bottom right statistic, one of the least digitized major industry globally is construction. It's not even just in the UK, globally that is. So again, this is the whole point is that there's a massive opportunity to digitize our business. How can we take a lot of data? So we as a business and the construction industry takes on a lot of data in terms of obtaining project information from sites. You think around lots of health and safety statistics, you think around finance statistics. All of your business operation is utilizing data in some way or capturing data in some way. However, that isn't necessarily the most joined up approach in the world currently. So we as a business are on a journey at the moment to understand and work out the most effective way of becoming more of a digital first business. And the SES business, one of the ones that I mentioned earlier on when I was talking around the divisions, are kind of like our front runner in our group on how they can become more digital facing within the market. Cool. So with all of that context in mind and all of those challenges and opportunities that I've mentioned on the previous slide, this is a little bit about more around how we're responding to that. So my team sat centrally, we're very much focused on putting together a strategy to address those challenges. So we've kind of coined it the Innovation Hub, but essentially what we're doing is trying to capture people from the business's knowledge, understanding, whether that's a challenge they've got, whether it's a solution they found in the market, and giving them a home to be able to come to us, speak to us about it. We'll have a look at it, review it, and think of the best course of action to take it forward. But it has to be focused. So it's not just someone saying, oh, I think we should change the tea bags because it's going to save us 50 quid a year. It's more like, oh, I found a smart AI camera technology that's going to help our health and safety statistics because we can monitor if someone's non-compliant. those kind of technologies are the ones that we're looking for. So we've got this new team set up centrally that I'm heading up at the moment, focusing on finding solutions to the challenges that are coming into us in the centre. And then equally, as I said at the start of this call, part of my remit is focusing on partnerships as well. So going out there, talking to institutions around how they can potentially help us address a problem. So a lot of times we'll have challenges and problems where we won't necessarily always have the answer to them. So how can we use the partnership relationships that we've built with the marketplace to help us find answers to the questions that we've got? I'm conscious of time. I think I've got a few minutes, so I'll very quickly go over this
You're
last
okay,
slide.
don't worry. Thank
Okay,
you.
good, good. So this slide kind of brings to life a little bit some more of these conversations and some more of these interesting companies that we've been out there talking to in the market. So I'll move from left to right and canter through it. But on the left-hand side, I've umbrellaed it as funds, but these are institutions within the construction sector who within their fund may have some really interesting organizations that we as Wates would like to potentially trial and test and use within our business. So PI Labs have got 50 or 60 really innovative companies using AI. They approach us, say, look, we've got this solution for you. Have a look at it, see what you think. If you like it, if you can help us find a site to test it, we'd be really keen to do that. So without jumping across the screen too much, if you can see on the third pillar, demand logic, the DL, that is an example of one of the companies within the PI Labs fund that presented to us. We really liked the idea and wanted to bring it to life, and now we're using it on a project site. And demand logic is almost like a bit of smart technology. It's a sensor that you'll put into a building, and it will give you lots of data and lots of insights on how that building is performing operationally. So it will tell you about, oh, your boiler's not working at 100% efficiency, or there's a problem with the lighting. People are using the equipment out of hours, etc. And it will give you a dashboard of all of this really useful project data on or information on your building. And some insights as well as what to do next. So it will give you some recommendations based on that data and that insight. So we really like them as a solution. We're now rolling that out across our wider portfolio within the WPS business. So that's one really good example. So there's funds as a pillar. I won't talk around them too much, but they're a massive opportunity for us as a business to find new emerging technology. We've got some great relationships there. The second pillar is within our existing supply chain. So us as a main contractor, we don't do much of the actual manufacturing or doing. We rely heavily on our supply chain underneath us to manufacture component parts and bring them to site. So Ibstock, for example, they're a brick manufacturer. So I have a relationship with them where they'll show me the latest technologies and solutions that they're using in the manufacturing of bricks. And that might be moving from a traditional furnace to an electric furnace. It might be using innovative bricks themselves that are potentially half the size, so they're more carbon efficient. They're just some examples of an existing supplier who is coming to us talking around new solutions that they're developing that we might look to deploy. Another good example is JCB. You might be familiar with JCB for a lot of their plant and vehicle and equipment as well. We're working with JCB at the moment around manufacturing a hydrogen generator. So rather than using traditional diesel as fuel, and you might be aware of all the challenges in the market currently around availability of fuel, given that there's a war going on in Iran, that actually using hydrogen as an alternative to diesel to generate the power to keep sites running is a really innovative approach. So we're talking to JCB around how can we potentially move that forward from the one generator that we've used so far into scaling that more broadly across our construction sites as well. The third pillar, these are just some examples of some interesting companies that we've been working with recently. So I've spoken around Demand Logic, Robot, which is the fifth image down. That's a smart health and safety camera. So we're trialing that literally as of this week. We've got it on a construction site. So if you can imagine a camera, a CCTV camera in the corner of a construction site, and it's identifying non-compliance with PPE, so personal protective equipment. So, for example, if you're not wearing a high vis or you're not wearing a hard hat and you're supposed to be, or you're walking into a zone that you're not supposed to be walking into because it's not safe, the camera will trigger that and it will notify you that there's a health and safety risk going on in real time. So we're trialing that at the moment. We're hoping that's going to go really well, and we're looking to then scale that across our business. Converge, which is the second image from the top on that third pillar, we're working very closely with them now on some concrete sensoring technology. So when concrete is being poured, you put their sensor tech in the concrete as it hardens and solidifies, and it will tell you to the minute when that concrete has reached the relative strength that it needs to reach in order to then build out on top of the concrete. So we've just started using their product recently on a prison job that we've got going on. And again, we're looking to roll that out more broadly across our construction division as well. And then the fourth and final pillar is non-industry. So outside of the construction sector, who else should we be talking to in the marketplace who are particularly innovative that can potentially help us going forward? So particularly the big theme in here is around working with academic institutions, so big universities that have got strong research foundations. So Durham University are a big partner of ours now. We're working very closely with them to collaborate on research projects where we'll have a particular problem, and it might be actually how do we use AI better in our business, and within our business we might not know exactly what the solution is. We can approach someone like Durham and go, right, this is the challenge that we've got in our business. Can you use your research capability to help us in our business come to a solution that helps us address that initial problem or that initial challenge that we've got? So just some examples in there of some different research institutions or universities that are beginning to support us as a business to address some of the challenges that we've got. I think that's all my slides done. How are we doing for
Yeah.
time? Is
Yeah,
that
no, that's
okay?
perfect. Yeah, thank you
Perfect.
so much,
Cool.
Rory. It's
That's all
actually
right.
really interesting to see some of those businesses because young people might consider some futures with some of those great partners that you're
Absolutely.
working with. And you know, you're relying on them on some of their innovation to make sure you reach your targets. That's great. There's a couple of questions. The let's just see. One of them was, are you involved in housing or are you just commercial? So I've just put one of the businesses in the Wates group builds the houses. I can't remember. Sorry, forgive me.
Correct.
Which
Yeah, so our residential business does build houses,
yeah,
but we also, our WPS business is maintaining houses,
yeah.
and our
And
developments
then
business is buying land to sell to house
house
builders.
builders.
So we do quite a lot in the housing space, yes.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Somebody's put, does less carbon mean more expense? Does that impact your bottom line? You know, if you think about in
Really good,
trying to increase the profit, I
really,
suppose.
really good question. In an ideal world, no, it shouldn't. However, there are plenty of examples where providing a more sustainable alternative, i.e., a carbon saving, can potentially have a higher upfront cost. But what the benefit is in some of those scenarios is actually the lifetime cost gets reduced as a result. So the upfront cost might be more, but the lifetime cost of using that product or technology actually brings the cost down. So there's quite a big piece of communication that's really important when we're working with customers, working with clients, working with our suppliers to really try and articulate that in a clear way to say, actually, yes, it might cost a little bit more upfront, but actually over the lifespan of that building or for that project, it's actually going to turn out cheaper.
Brilliant, thank you. You talked about AI only really being used sort of nearly 1% across your sector.
Mm.
And you is there a scenario where you could just say how you know it has been used really effectively, or is it just generally in your professional services side of your business?
So we use it. We're probably in that 1%.
Are you? I
We're
was going to
using it.
say that without saying it.
We are in that 1%, yeah, but we're using it both in the back office related roles. So, i.e., how can we make our personal lives easier with standard pieces of work like um, helping review emails, review documents, etc. But we are also using it in the front end delivery of projects too. So, we're using some AI to identify design drawing discrepancies. So, when there's a challenge or a clash between different design drawings when they should meet or they should match, the AI is actually picking up design clashes which a human might not necessarily pick up, or
Yeah,
if they do,
absolutely.
it can take them a significant amount of time. So that's a really exciting bit of AI that we're now using in the front end delivery of our projects.
Brilliant, thank you. And I suppose just to wrap up, really, because we're at the top of the half hour, so thank you to everybody that's joined us. But there is so much opportunity in this world, in this field, and so many of our students are saying, "Oh, are these jobs all just being replaced by AI?" And I don't think they are. Actually, it's bringing a lot of opportunity. So I think if you go with it, would you be right in saying that, Rory? If you go with it and embrace it, that it could potentially enhance your career pathway.
It's on the individuals who are really going to be the future of our industry are those who embrace AI and can find the solutions that use AI to make our lives easier in the construction process. So if you're one of those people who thinks, yeah, actually, I could find a way of using AI in the way that I operate, that's never going to take you out of a job. That's only going to help you progress your career. So don't see it as something that's going to replace the job you're doing or the job you want to be doing, but see it as an enabler to help you be more proactive and more efficient in your role
Yeah,
going
brilliant.
forwards.
Thanks for your time, Rory, and
No
thank you
worries.
everyone for joining.
Lovely to see you all. Thank you very much. Take care. Bye
Have
bye.
a good afternoon.